Hey, actual movement, right? So, I was saying this before I think I had the mic set up working, is that I just got a notification that my Batman The Adventures Continues action figure that I ordered is downstairs waiting on me right now. I ordered the Deathstroke and everything, and so it's got me thinking about sharing something with y'all that we just found out. So I don't know if you guys read chapter 11, I believe. You'll remember that there was the scene where pay no attention to the file names. Yes, we download from a pirate site, but that's after we've already paid for the book. We just have that so that we can access high quality files easily without just screenshotting things. So you will remember, if you've read chapter 11 already, this scene here with Jason brutalizing the villains. We got Man-Bat, we got Penguin in his BTAS costume, and we have Clock King over here, doing his normal Clock King thing, with clocks for glasses. But so I just came across. Oh my God, where did the? Oh no, are they? Did I keep them in that folder? I think I kept them in that folder. Yep, extras. So we just came across Mark Morales' inks for the book. Right, he did 8 pages, which I guess translates to 16 digital pages. And so here's that page. And you may notice Penguin's not in his BTAS form here. He's doing his TNBA thing. And Clock King doesn't have clock glasses. He has a domino mask going on. And so, like, I don't know what happened from point A to point B, but they went in, they recovered Penguin with, the BTAS Penguin, which kind of signifies that it's definitely two different looks. It's not just like a stylistic thing, I feel like, or else that would have been, just fine. But this over here, I think James was actually, I found the pages, but James pointed these things out. This thing over here, like, he looks like he is supposed to be the Riddler or something, but with a clock motif. And I don't know how that happened. I would have assumed that Ty would have drawn his glasses on, but yeah. So neat little BTAC trivia there for you. It's lagging again. Is it lagging bad? Like, what is this lag you're talking about? Because I can't do anything more than I just did. And you're the only person saying anything about lag. Is it? Nowhere near as bad as last time. Okay, well, I mean, we'll just have to go with what we got. Maybe between now and it's a good thing it didn't stay the Riddler. He destroyed that suit in Riddler's reform. See, it'll have been because you were rapidly opening stuff. It's fine now. Okay. Just as badly as it always does with your stream. Haha. Okay, yeah. I think maybe between now and next week, I might try to move more stuff off of my computer to an external hard drive, just so we can, have as much space as needed for all of this. But let's go ahead. Let's let's do what we all came here to do. And let's borrow this book for an hour. And we went through what? Chapter 14 last time, I believe. So we got chapter 15, 16, and 17 left. That's going to be 20 pages. So let's go ahead and hop in. Chapter 15 is going to be page 113, so let me get there for you all who want to read along. We're at page 110 now. 112. There we go. 113. All right. Andrea Beaumont would never forget what she saw on that day 8 years ago. At that moment, she had made a silent vow to herself and to her father that she would never rest until the people responsible paid for their sins with their lives. Soon, her mission would be complete. Inside the Home of the Future exhibit, the Joker was just settling down for dinner. With his trusty robot companion's chopping assistant, the Joker had cut a few slices off a huge slab of bologna. He was busy munching away when he noticed a breeze blowing in from outside. He walked to the front doors just in time to see the wisps of smoke come together to form a huge cloud in the middle of the Home of the Future. And then, from out of the clouds, stepped Phantasm. Oh, I need to turn the page. Joker, your angel of death awaits, Phantasm said. I'm impressed, lady, the Joker answered. You're harder to kill than a cockroach on steroids! Phantasm stood for a moment before slowly removing the skull-like mask that had struck fear into the hearts of Carl Beaumont's former partners. So, you figured it out, Phantasm said, revealing to the Joker that she was Andrea Beaumont. Gotta hand it to ya! Nice scheme! The Joker said, slowly edging his way toward Andrea. Costume's a bit theatrical, but hey! Who am I to talk? Suddenly, the Joker threw a punch toward Andrea, but she ducked out of the way, raising her open hand to the Joker's face. A jet of smoke streamed out of her palm, covering the Joker's head. The Joker staggered backward, the smoke clinging to his head, as Andrea raised her hand blade to strike. But the smoke cleared before Andrea could attack. The Joker grinned menacingly. I can blow smoke too, toots! He said as a jet of acid squirted from his lapel flower into Andrea's hand blade. Before her astonished eyes, the blade began to melt until all that was left was a stump of hot metal goo. As Andrea tried to shake the molten steel from her hand, the Joker made his move. He punched her once, twice, 3 times, until she fell to the ground. The Joker attempted to pin Andrea down, but she still had plenty of fight left. She kicked the clown prince hard on the chin, sending him flying backward. As he scrambled across the floor of the futuristic home, Andrea stood. I feel like they should have said Andrea stood up, maybe? But whatever. They kind of caught me off guard, just like Andrea stood. You're not smiling, Joker, she hissed. I thought you found death amusing. Me? The Joker asked innocently as he backed toward the robot companion who continued chopping at the slab of bologna. Oh no, you won't hear a giggle out of me, he said as he depressed a button on the robot maid's side. The robot suddenly turned toward Andrea with its chopping blade swinging through the air. She ducked out of the way and kicked the robot to the ground. But with Andrea's attention focused on the robot, the Joker had a chance to make his next move. He grabbed a deadly-looking power mixer and charged toward Andrea. Again, Andrea easily managed to disarm the Joker, and with a kick, sent him crashing back against the table. Now it was her turn to attack. Grabbing the Joker by the collar, she raised her fist, and was stunned when the Joker reached over his head, grabbed the huge slab of bologna, and whacked Andrea over the head with it. As Andrea staggered backward, the Joker raced toward the window. Andrea might have looked like a pretty young woman, but she fought as hard as Batman himself. If the Joker hoped to win, he'd have to take the battle outside as soon as possible. The quickest way to do that was to crash headfirst through the House of the Future's picture windows. The Joker fell through the sky, but landed on his feet and ran toward the main plaza to hide among the other abandoned exhibits in the Gotham World's Fair. By the time Andrea got to the window, the Joker was nowhere to be seen. A cloud of smoke appeared, quickly surrounding Andrea. The cloud flew through the window and came to rest in the center of the plaza in the front of the Future of Technology exhibit's massive turbine fan engine. When Andrea stepped out of the cloud, she heard the Joker's voice. "Well, if it isn't Smokey the Babe!" The Joker smirked. "Just in time for her biggest fan!" Andrea looked at the turbine engine before her. The fan blades had begun to move. Andrea summoned a smoke cloud to get her away from the turbine, but the fan blades sucked the smoke away before a cloud could form. Andrea turned to run, but found that the pull of the rapidly spinning fans was too great. Instead of moving forward, the turbine was sucking her back toward the deadly blades. As the turbine reached its maximum speed, Andrea felt her feet lift off the ground. Before she knew what was happening, she was flying towards certain death. But as she hurtled through the air, she spotted what might be her only chance for survival. A metal beam from one of the other exhibits stood directly in between her and the turbine. As she flew past the beam, Andrea reached out and grabbed it. But the pull was too great. Her hands slipped off the beam, and she flew ever closer to the spinning blades. Her last chance was up ahead. Just a few feet in front of the turbine blade stood a flagpole. It was bent from the suction of the fan, but it held to the ground. If Andrea could only grab it. Yes! But now she had run out of luck. Now she hovered mere feet from the turbine, hanging onto the pole by her fingertips. She estimated 5 minutes before her fingers could no longer take the strain and would let go. The Joker gave her less, as he clicked the turbine controller into overdrive, making the blade spin even faster. Andrea screamed in agony as she struggled to hang on, but deep inside, she knew that it was all over. Until Batman showed up on his Bat-cycle. He'd spotted Andrea from the other end of the park and kicked his cycle into high gear, steering it toward the turbine. Faster and faster, Batman drove toward certain doom. As the cycle got close to the turbine, the suction was so great the cycle actually lifted off the ground. And that was Batman's cue. At the last possible second, he leaped off the bike, sending it into the whirring metal blades. The cycle hit the turbine with a deafening crash, and the blades were twisted to pieces as they ground against the steel cycle parts. A moment later, the turbine ground to a halt. As the Joker fled deeper into the fairgrounds, Batman confronted Andrea. "Your father's dead, isn't he?" he stated. "You came into town early to get Chucky Saul, so you could shift the blame to your father if you had to." Andrea nodded. It was all true. "They took everything, Bruce! My dad, my life, you! I'm not saying it's right, or even sane, but it's all I've got left!" She raised her chin defiantly. "So either help me, or get out of my way!" Batman raised a fist before her. "You know I can't do that," he said. Andrea was outraged. "Look what they did to me!" she exclaimed. "What we could have had! They had to pay!" Batman shook his head sadly. "But Andy," he reasoned, "what will vengeance solve?" Which, like, that line's always stuck out to me, right? Because Batman's got his whole, "I am vengeance, I am the night, I am Batman." And, like, sure, Paul Dini didn't write that line, I don't think. But it's, like, it's a popular enough line that, like, they should have known better, I guess. I don't know. I guess technically he wrote this in 91 or whatever. I guess Paul Dini wasn't the only writer either. But, like, I guess they wrote this before it went to air. But, like, that's just one of those things that you probably could have, you know, realized was going to be a moment in the series. Or Mask of the Phantasm is not canon. Let's see, what will vengeance solve? "If anyone knows the answer to that," Andrea answered, "it's you." Batman stared at her. She'd never understand that their goals were totally different. While Andrea was looking for revenge, Batman was looking for justice. They were so alike, he thought, yet so different. And in that moment, Batman understood why he and Andrea Beaumont could never be together. "Leave, Andy," he said. "Leave now." Andrea looked at him coldly for an instant. Then the mist appeared, enveloping her. When the cloud cleared, Andrea Beaumont was gone. So that is chapter 15. Not really a lot of notes to plug in. Right, because the locations, the characters, that's all stuff we've seen throughout already. I guess technically we could put the bat cycle, right? Because that's an item that was capitalized, so it's a thing we'll have a page for. Oh, I didn't even give myself the extra columns and stuff that I'm gonna need. Extra rows, that's what I'm talking about. Get that off of there. And then we got on the first page of this chapter that Andrea's dad was killed 8 years ago, which is something that was backed up in the previous chapter. They said it had been 2 years after they left Gotham, which, you know, comes out to 8 years. What y'all got going on in the chat? James with the salt. How are you even typing in the shower? I think whoever said it was the opening thing had a point. It's been much smoother since. Okay, well that's good. Oh no, she's in trouble. A bat cycle. Damn, Batman hypocrite moments. Right? Yeah. It's. I post. So whenever they like revealed the Batman trailer, I got like the captions on for the moment where he's talking about being vengeance, and I collaged that with this moment from the movie where he's like, "What will vengeance solve?" And I post it, you know, to our Twitter, to our Instagram as like a little joke, because I knew everyone was gonna do the like, "Oh, they did the thing from Batman the Animated Series! Oh my god!" So I was just like, no, they did this thing from Batman the Animated Series, you know? It's a subtle reference to how vengeance doesn't solve anything, and so Batman won't be able to solve Riddler's tricky tricks. You know, all is a big old meme. And someone got really upset about it. I wish I still had access to the comment, but they ended up deleting it like after I was just like, bros, like, chill with your debate me attitude. It's a joke. Like, that's all there is to it. And like 400 people had liked that post or something like that, and it's just like he was the one guy that didn't seem to get it. But it is what it is. Let's hit chapter 16, shall we? Now for the Joker. Batman thought as he searched, or wow, that's not the way you read that. Now for the Joker, Batman thought as he searched through the fairground. He spotted the clown prince of crime racing into the World of the Future exhibit and followed. Inside, Batman was confronted with an astonishing sight, a miniature Gotham City exactly down to the last detail. Batman walked along empty miniature city streets and squirmed between dark, unlit skyscrapers barely 8 feet tall. There was a replica of the Gotham Sky Bridge up ahead. The real thing was 28 stories high. Batman simply lifted his leg to climb over the miniature duplicate. But as he searched through the city streets for his enemy, Batman didn't notice that one of the Gotham skyscrapers was following him. Batman did not know it, but the Joker was observing his every move. He had placed the upper half of one skyscraper over his head, using it to hide himself from Batman. And as Batman wandered through the Gotham miniatures downtown area, the Joker pressed a button on his remote controller and stood back to watch the fun begin. Batman first suspected a trap when the city suddenly came to life. Batman squinted from the skyscraper's bright lights. They were as bright and busy as the real thing. He saw the Gotham monorail cruising along its single track, watched miniature cars driving down miniature roads, heard miniature autogyros flying overhead, and felt the sting of their blades as they launched their attack. Batman swatted at the autogyros and ducked out of their paths. As he twisted and turned, he noticed the Joker zipping across the city, riding on top of the miniature monorail. When the monorail passed over the Gotham River, the Joker leaped off. He flipped open the roof of one of the smaller buildings and hit a switch inside. Then he ran off, disappearing behind a block of skyscrapers. Batman attempted to follow him, but turned in pain as another autogyro buzzed him in the shoulder. He reached out to grab the first autogyro when another tore into his back. Batman looked around. The sky was filling up with tiny helicopters, and one was driving right toward his face. Batman swung his fist forward, smashing the autogyros to bits. Just as he destroyed what he guessed was the last of them, he saw an entire squadron of the tiny copters bank around a corner and head straight toward him. Batman waited for the autogyros to swoop down close. Then, when they were almost upon him, he swiftly pulled off his cape, holding it open like a sheet in front of him. As the autogyros dived into the cape, Batman brought the ends together, creating a bag with the autogyros caught inside. Batman held on to the ends of the cape and heaved the sack of autogyros over his shoulder, smashing them to the ground. Then he swung his cape back over his shoulder, scattering pieces of the destroyed autogyros about the miniature street. "You're too late, Batman!" the Joker suddenly chuckled. Batman looked up to see the Joker as he shouted from atop the monorail that traveled past the miniature city. "There are 20 miles of tunnels under this place, and they're all filled with high explosives. In 5 minutes, everything goes up in the biggest blast since the Asylum Christmas party!" The Joker laughed crazily as he danced a little jig on the monorail track before racing out the exit. Does he mention the Asylum Christmas party in the movie? Because I don't remember that line. I mean, that sounds like a direct reference to Christmas with the Joker. Batman leaped from miniature building to miniature building until he reached the monorail exit. An instant later, he stood in the fair's main plaza area, scanning the grounds for any signs of the Joker. When Batman heard the slow, droning sound of a rocket engine, he knew the Joker was at the Space Pavilion. Batman raced toward the huge stone statue of the waving astronaut that towered over the exhibit's entrance and spotted the Joker standing at the foot of the statue, wearing a futuristic rocket pack over his shoulders. Batman had to reach him before he took off. He ran as fast as he could, but he was too late. The rockets on the Joker's back flared red hot as the Joker rose into the sky. But Batman wasn't ready to quit just yet. As the Joker hovered in the sky, Batman ran to the middle of the plaza, where the fair's centerpiece, a sculpture of a huge ringed planet next to a futuristic-looking rocket ship, rested. Batman raced toward the rocket and continued running straight up the rocket's side before launching himself into the air. As the Joker slowly flew by, Batman grabbed him. Hero and villain struggled in the sky, Batman attempting to hold on to the Joker and the jetpack, while the Joker tried to shake Batman off his back and send him falling to his death. The Joker directed the rocket pack toward a bridge. As he flew under it, he suddenly jerked upward, smashing Batman's back against the underside of the bridge. The Joker was then able to flip the stunned Batman over so that he hung in space. But still, Batman would not let go of the Joker. "You just don't know when to quit!" the Joker said angrily as he tried to push Batman away. In response, Batman reached up with his free hand and punched the Joker hard, sending the two of them zigzagging wildly across the park. The jetpack carrying the two enemies soared and fell through the sky, crashing through some exhibits while narrowly missing others. And all the while, the countdown to the destruction of the Gotham City Fairgrounds continued. "You're crazy!" the Joker protested. They didn't put the start of the next quotation mark. "I'm your only chance to get out of here! Let me go or we'll both die!" Batman snarled angrily. "That's the idea!" he hissed as he jerked the Joker's jetpack down, causing them to crash through the fair's huge ringed planet centerpiece. Wait, did he say that in the movie? Did he say that he wanted them to both die? Because, like, what's up with him saving Joker and Batman the Adventures continues. I'm just throwing that out there. That's the idea. he hissed as he jerked the Joker's jetpack down, causing them to crash through the fair's huge ring planet centerpiece. Batman and the Joker hit the ground at the same time. Beaten and bloody, neither of them was in any condition to continue the fight. "For once," the Joker groaned, "I'm stuck without a punchline." Then a shadow fell across the Joker's face. He looked up. It was Andrea Beaumont. Her face betrayed no emotion as she reached over and effortlessly lifted the Joker off the ground. The Joker was too weak to fight back. Instead, he raised his hands. "Okay," he said groggily, "I give up." Andrea's expression did not change. It was as if she hadn't heard a word of what the Joker had just said. "I surrendered already," the Joker said. "Tell her, Batman!" Batman staggered to his feet and started walking toward Andrea. "You've got to get out of here," he said. "This place is wired to explode." Andrea's eyes narrowed as she glared at the helpless Joker. "No," she said. "One way or another, it ends tonight." Then she turned to Batman, and her expression softened. "Goodbye, my love," she said, and for an instant, Batman remembered the Andrea he loved as much as life itself. He stepped toward her. And somewhere, not too far away, Batman heard the dull thud of an underground explosion. It was quickly followed by another explosion, and another, and another. Each new explosion was louder than the one before. The Joker had set up a deadly chain reaction of explosions, and they were headed in this direction. On the other side of the main plaza, Batman watched as the Ferris wheel suddenly blew off its supports and smashed through the monorail track. The wheel continued rolling forward until it crashed into the World of the Future exhibit. Then both exhibit and Ferris wheel blew to pieces. An instant later, Gotham's World Fair... excuse me. An instant later, the Gotham World's Fair centerpiece, the Planet Rocket ship sculpture, exploded into a ball of white-hot flame. Still helpless in Andrea's grip, the Joker started to giggle. Then his giggle grew into a chuckle, and his chuckle grew into a laugh, and his laugh grew into an insane cackle. He couldn't help himself. It was all just so darn funny. Andrea looked down on the Joker as mist started billowing out around her. In a moment, a cloud had completely surrounded her and the Joker. Batman staggered after them as the Joker's laughter faded away. "Andrea!" Batman screamed. But when the smoke cleared, both the Joker and the woman who had called herself Phantasm were gone. As the Gotham City World's Fair collapsed, the ground below Batman's feet gave way. He plummeted down, 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 until he splashed into one of the sewer tunnels under the city. The current carried him from one pipeline to the next, deeper and deeper into the system, eventually spilling him out into Gotham Harbor. His lungs close to bursting, Batman shot to the surface. In the distance, the World's Fair exploded in a final display of fire and smoke. Okay, so we got Gotham Harbor there at the very end. And then we had a mention of the Gotham Sky Bridge. Alright, we saw the miniature version. But that's a named place. So Gotham Harbor. Oi. Gotham Harbor. Gotham Sky Bridge. Bada boom, bada bang. And then let me put in a note for chapter 17. OMG, they were gonna debate you. Yeah, it was a whole funny thing. They like James came in at first like and had just responded to the guy saying like, "Hey, it's just a joke," and he's like, I don't think it was. You're just saying that because of you can't rebut anything I'm saying. You blah blah blah." And so I just responded like, "Hey, this is the exact reason why I did this. Just chill out." Because of course they did. There's always someone who's got to get mad, right? Batman first suspected a trap when the city came to life. This is Batman, and this is the Joker. He first suspected a trap when he thought the name Joker. Maybe that's a reference to Christmas with the Joker. Nah, he just says, in 5 minutes, everything goes up. Okay, interesting. He says, whatever it takes. Yeah, Joker did say that Andrea in the movie also said, "Look what they did to us," instead of "to me," like here. I wonder if this book is based on the movie itself or an early script or something. I would imagine it's based off of a script. You know, I can't say this is the case for all novelizations, but it helps get the product out in time for the movie if your novelization's working off the script. Which, yeah, you know what? Let me, now that I mention it, or there might be reason to. Okay, yeah, I get it. Joker mentions Asylum Christmas Party. There we go. Let's put that in now that I'm remembering it. Alright, lads. We're on chapter 17. We got the last 4 pages and an about the author. Let's fucking go! He was wounded, but he would survive. Alfred assured him back in the Batcave. But he would survive, Alfred assured him back in the Batcave. There we go. God, recording audiobooks must be so difficult. Somehow, he always survived. But this time wasn't like the others. This time he'd left a part of himself back in the dying embers of the fairgrounds, a piece of his soul that was now forever lost. He carefully lifted the cowl away from his bruised face and put his head in his hands. "I couldn't save her, Alfred," he sobbed. Alfred placed a fatherly hand on his employer's shoulder. "I don't think she wanted to be saved, sir," he said. "Vengeance blackens the soul. Bruce, I always feared you would become that which you fought against. You walk the edge of that abyss every night, but you haven't fallen in, and I thank heaven for that." Bruce wasn't hearing him. He looked down at the ground in despair. Alfred kneeled before him to get his attention. "Andrea fell into that pit years ago," he said, "and no one, not even you, could have pulled her out." Alfred's words fell on deaf ears. Nothing the butler might say could ease Bruce's misery. The woman he loved was gone, and he could only blame himself. Bruce bowed his head sadly and noticed something in the corner of his eye. Something he couldn't tell what, seemed to be sparkling in the Batcave's dim light. Bruce stood and looked at the glimmering light. His heart suddenly filled with hope. "What is it?" Alfred asked. Why is my nose just itching all of a sudden? Deep inside, Bruce already knew, but he dared not say a word until he was sure. He began walking, then trotting, then running at full speed across the bridge leading to the Batcave's entrance. In a moment, he had arrived at the glittering light. He reached up into the darkness for it. Could it be? It was Andrea's locket. He knew there was only one way it could have gotten here. She had left it here as if to tell him that she too had survived, but that their love had not. It could not. Alfred peered thoughtfully at the morning paper's headline. Batman Innocent. An out-of-focus photo of Phantasm's encounter with the late Chucky Saul in the Shady Lady's parking garage filled most of the front page. "Well, thank heavens, the public knows Batman was not responsible for Miss Beaumont's deadly campaign," he said. "Apparently, a Gazette reporter captured Mr. Saul's untimely demise on film." Although Bruce appreciated his old friend's effort to change his mood, Alfred's observation could not break through the wall of emotion separating the two men. Bruce Wayne stared at the locket tearfully. Although his sadness was still great, knowing Andrea Beaumont was still alive made it a sadness he could live with. The passengers on the Queen Elizabeth luxury liner didn't need an excuse to celebrate. Every night was party night. The ship had left Gotham City 2 days earlier. There would be a total of 15 more all-night celebrations before the ocean liner put into port. One of the passengers, a friendly-looking man staggering along the deck, a glass of champagne in his hand, he He'd left the party to come out here and toast the moon and the sky, and above all, the sea. He raised his glass up high, and noticed a lone woman standing on the far end of the deck, her hair and skirt blowing in the wind. The passenger took his paper party hat off, smoothed back his hair, and with a confident yet slightly tipsy air, strode toward the mysterious woman. "Quite a sight," he said as he stood by her side and gazed at the ocean. "Yes," the woman said solemnly. The passenger turned to look at the woman. Something in her voice made him feel concerned for her. "I'm sorry," he said. "Have you lost someone?" "Yes," Andrea Beaumont said. 2 days and 1,000 miles away, a lone figure stood among the rooftops. His eyes closed, his mind lost in thoughts of what might have been and what could never be. There was an emptiness inside him, an emptiness he wasn't sure would ever go away. He had loved and lost, and he needed someone to fill the void, someone to want him, someone to rely on him, someone... But as the signal filled the nighttime sky, Batman put aside his thoughts and smiled. He was needed. Okay, and that is the end of that. We got really quick at the end here. We got a mention of it. The last scene is 2 days later, and the boat is out to sea for 15 more days. And then we got I guess Queen Elizabeth would be a location, kind of, right? Or an object. I don't know. She's on the Queen Elizabeth, but... And then we could put Queen Elizabeth as a mentioned character, because obviously it's named after someone. And that is the end of Mask of the Phantasm. We have an about the author, though. Andrew Helfer was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Like Bruce Wayne, he was a child of privilege and attended prestigious New York City public schools. Later, he went to college and did graduate work in journalism at New York University. Still later, he discovered the joy of comic books and has spent the last 12 years writing and editing them for DC Comics in New York. In his spare time, Andrew has written many illustrated children books, branching storybooks, and novelizations, and working with fellow DC Comics editor Mike Carlin, he has co-authored 15 episodes of the syndicated Adventures of Superboy television series. Andrew lives in New York City. He has a cat named Roughhouse and one of the largest collections of Godzilla toys east of Tokyo. Well, there you go. Now we know about Andrew Helfer a little bit. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. So we learned I guess a couple things out of this book, but mostly it was pretty much the the movie beat for beat. It had a couple small differences, like the ones we just mentioned, the Arkham Christmas Party, the like talking about killing both of them, that kind of stuff. I think the biggest deal was learning that it was 2 years later that Andrea's father was killed. But yeah, what do y'all got going on here? James says not canon. Okay, serious. Why didn't Bruce have a picture of her in that one Batman Beyond episode where he was looking at his lovers? The same reason, he didn't have a picture of Kathy Duquesne, or he didn't have a picture of Wonder Woman, or he didn't have a picture of the plant clone. If you put them all in there, it's a lot. Whoa, deleted scene here. Or added into the book to be like, by the way, nobody thinks Batman killed those people since the movie didn't actually do that. Oh, yeah, I guess that was kind of new, wasn't it? From what I understand, I think the other novelization goes a little bit further. Oh, did I blink out there for a second? There was a welcome to the chat room. That let me go or we'll both die. Joker line is in the movie too. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I think... Oh, I didn't mean to open that. So I think that we have the other novelization in our drive, and I want to say that I've heard that that deleted scene goes a bit longer, and that the guy on the boat was actually the one who cleared Batman's name. I'm not entirely sure about that, so I'm trying to look for the other novelization, because it'll be a while till we get to that, right? Because I don't want to read 2 Mask of the Phantasm novelizations back to back. I feel like that wouldn't be too fun for anybody. But if we could at least find the other one, I could skim it real quick. But of course my computer wants to be as slow as dicks. So who knows? Maybe that won't happen today. I think maybe I just clicked the wrong drive link to try to go in. It's probably trying to load every page of the... There we go. Okay, here's some of our Phantasm stuff. Oh, there it is right there. This is the one by, what is it, Gary Gravel, something like that. And from what I understand, there are, Geary Gravel, based on an original story by Alan Burnett. Oh, of course it's going to want to load, you know, each page as a separate page. Up. There we go. We just got a page counter at the bottom of the screen. There we go. Let's go to the bottom pages. Any relation to Mike Gravel? Who knows? Damn, I keep opening folders on accident. No, go away. Y'all can't see them because I've only got my internet being shown. Okay. Yep, okay, whoa, here it is. Here it is. Alright, let's, oh no, I went too far. Oh no. I went too far the other way. How do I do this more slowly? Oh, I could open this with Google Docs? It'll be alright. Was it this? Was it chapter 38? No, that's gonna be... Yeah, here we go with Bert. Oh, Dr. Tompkins. Oh, there's a whole lot of extra stuff in here. I wish we read this version. Alright, here we go. We're going to read a chapter from the other Mask of the Phantasm novelization. Because this is a completely different scene that we haven't seen. It was taking Bert a bit longer than he had expected to get his sea legs. He stood in a corner of the big ballroom and sipped cautiously at his champagne as he watched the revelers. A golden paper crown was perched lopsidedly on his head, given to him by the same pair of giggling young women who had told him that champagne was good for seasickness. His stomach gave a warning lurch as the ship moved on the swell of a slow wave. Bert set down his drink and walked unsteadily across the ballroom. Maybe the salt air would help settle his stomach. He slipped out into the darkness and made his way across the deck to the railing. It was hard for him to believe how much his life had changed in such a short time. It had started when he stopped in at the Quick Shot to pick up his pictures after his second day of work in Crime Alley. Maggie had advanced him his first week's salary from the community center to pay for them, and it had taken almost all of the check. Oh, Maggie. Is that Alfred's Maggie? The photographs had come out beautifully clear and sharp with the tiny date and timestamp from his camera visible in the lower right-hand corner of each picture. They had packed them in the envelope in reverse order, and Bert had stood on the pavement outside the store and thumbed through them slowly, lingering over the shots of his new friends and co-workers. Then he had reached the pictures from the hotel. He pursed his lips. The shots of the car had turned out very professional looking, though looking at them as he stood on the sidewalk outside the Quick Shot made Bert feel kind of sad. It didn't seem fair to be driving your sports car out of a parking garage one moment and then finding yourself dead and sticking out of the side of a hotel the next. Not even if you were a gangster. He slid the final photograph from the bottom of the pile and stared at it in consternation. It took him 5 seconds to recognize the concrete wall of the garage, another 10 to recall the startled instant when he had heard the car smash through the retaining wall, and lowered the camera from his eyes, his fingers squeezing tight on the button out of pure reflex. The camera had been aimed up toward the top of the garage when the shutter had clicked. He looked closely at the picture, his pulse racing. The camera had caught the tilted edge of the parking garage wall, with the jagged gap where the silver sports car had sailed out into the air, appearing perfectly centered in the photo. But it had caught something else, too. Standing in the gap of the wall was a figure dressed in all black, with a long, ragged cloak that flowed out behind it in the wind. Tongues of dark mist swirled around the figure, but the long gleaming claw that stretched at the end of its right arm was clearly visible, as was the bone-colored death's head mask. It wasn't him, Bert muttered, looking up from the photo. It wasn't Batman! An elderly man passing by gave him a sidelong glance and quickened his pace. He had hurried back to Park Row. It was Dr. Tompkins who had convinced him to go to the newspaper himself instead of just sending the photograph in anonymously. And it was Dr. Tompkins who had given him a big hug of gratitude when he walked back into the center that night and presented her with the check the newspaper had given him. It had turned out that the newspaper was running a contest for photographers and that Bert's picture had been declared the winner as soon as he turned it in. It was an awful lot of money, more than Bert had ever seen before, and, as he had explained to Dr. T and Maggie, there was nothing he could think of to do with it that could possibly bring him as much pleasure as giving it all to the center. He had told them about his meeting with the chief editor of the Gotham Times, and about his other meeting with the police commissioner, a beaming gray-haired man who had seemed very happy to meet him indeed. Other members of the center had come in while he was talking, and they had all gathered around him listening to his story, sharing his delight. The next morning, he had gone to the little newsstand outside his rented room, feeling almost fearful. What if it had been a dream, or worse, a joke? Suppose they had decided not to run the picture after all. But there it was, front and center, under a big black double headline that read, "Mystery Villain Snapped at Scene. Amateur Shutterbug Clears Batman." Amateur Shutterbug, Bert had thought, turning the words happily over in his mind. He had skimmed through the story, noting that the mystery villain, who had apparently left the city after the huge explosion at the fairgrounds, had been dubbed the Phantasm by one of the newspaper reporters. He flipped excitedly through the paper, discovering they had used another one of his photos, where the story continued on page 2. A credit ran in tiny print up the side of each picture. Photography by B. Ernie. Oh my god, this guy's name is literally Bert Ernie. Make that be Ernie amateur shutterbug, he thought proudly. Bert had purchased 3 copies of the Times, one to send to his parents, one to keep in his room, and one to have framed, because they had asked him for his friends down at the center. When he had showed up that morning, they were waiting for him, all gathered together in the big room. After they had oohed and awed for a while about the newspaper, Dr. Tompkins had presented him with the ticket they had gotten for him with some of the money. 6 days in the Caribbean, all expenses paid. Bert had cried a little then, and tried to give it back, but none of them would hear of it. Maggie had told him his job would be waiting for him when he got back, and Dr. Tompkins had promised that she wouldn't touch her file cabinet until he'd finished setting up his new system. Tansy had given him a hand-drawn picture of herself as Batwoman, and Miss Rosie had offered him detailed advice on where to find the best bargains in the Caribbean, which she seemed to think was somewhere off the coast of France. They had all come down to the dock that morning to see him off. Bert leaned against the railing and stared out over the dark waters. His stomach had begun to calm down. His jaw was aching a little, and he realized with a start that it was probably sore from all the smiling he'd been doing lately. Some people on the ship had learned about the picture that evening, and everyone had wanted to congratulate him. Soon he had wanted nothing more than to be alone for the rest of the night. He tried another smile on, in spite of himself, and left it there. Some things were worth a little discomfort. The moon slipped out from behind some high clouds, and he became aware of the woman standing silently by the railing about 20 feet down the deck. Her skirt and jacket were black, which was why he hadn't noticed her when he first came out. Bert watched her for a few moments, beginning to rethink his decision to spend the rest of the evening by himself. She looked very alone, standing there in front of the wide ocean, and it wouldn't hurt him to talk to one more person. He fumbled the paper crown from his head and folded it into his back pocket. Then he smoothed back his hair and straightened his tie. He was wearing the one he had gotten himself for his last birthday, and he thought the Three Stooges looked very jolly with the moonlight hitting their wise, comical faces. It was still a bit difficult to walk, thanks to the sea and the champagne, but he managed to make his way to a place not far from the woman without looking too tipsy. Suddenly shy, he turned and stared out over the ocean for almost a full minute before clearing his throat. "It's quite a sight," Bert said, finally glancing at her profile. She was very beautiful, he realized. He looked at the play of moonlight on her cheekbones and wished that he could take her picture. "Yes," the woman replied after a moment, giving him the barest nod. "Quite a sight." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Bert waited another 30 seconds, not sure of the etiquette involved when meeting someone at sea. Then he moved a couple of steps closer and stuck out his hand. "Bert and Ernie," he said. Of course Bert is short for Burton. Of course it is. Bert and Ernie. Which, like, this is a double joke, right? Because it's obviously a Tim Burton reference and a Sesame Street reference. The woman made no response, staring out at the slow rise and fall of the waves, as if she hadn't heard him. After a few seconds, he allowed his hand to fall back to his side, feeling a little foolish. He was just trying to be friendly, after all. Then he looked more closely at her black garments, and at the expression of faraway sadness in her eyes. They were fascinating eyes, the kind of clear blue-green he had seen in the ocean this afternoon. "I'm sorry," he said. "Have you lost someone?" At first he thought she was going to ignore him again. Her voice seemed to come from a very great distance when she answered him. "Yes," she told him, "I have." All right, and that's that chapter. That's that deleted scene. Wow, that was a lot. I wish we had been reading this version of the novelization instead, right? Like we just got so much stuff that wasn't in the movie, that wasn't in this book. It makes me really excited for when I get to the other Geary Gravel books in the you know, in the series, I guess. He did like 2 or 3 he did like, including Mask of the Phantasm, he did 4 different Batman the Animated Series books. One combines the Night of the Ninja and Day of the Samurai and adds extra detail to make them one full story. Another, I want to say, is the Two-Face 2-parter and Shadow of the Bat, I think it is, with added detail. And then the third one that's not, you know, the Mask of the Phantasm novelization. It's the one that I own, and I'm trying to remember specifically what it is. I think it's Appointment in Crime Alley and maybe Robin's Reckoning put together as one story. But yeah, this was fascinating, getting all of this extra stuff. I wish we had been reading this book, you know. And I mean, I guess I could at some point, but I feel like it had to have been kind of weird just like watching me read off the screen. So like I would like to get a physical copy of it, to make that a little less weird. From what I understand, there's more in this novelization, including like scenes with Robin, and I think an explanation of where Harley Quinn was, if I remember the forum post that I had read. But I'm glad to at least have read that ending there. I'm wondering, you know, if Leslie Tompkins and Maggie and, you know, the clinic as a whole have more to do in that version of the novelization, right? Because they just kind of dropped it on us like, you guys have watched the fucking series, you know who we're talking about. But I don't even think Maggie was on screen by the time that what you call it, that Mask of the Phantasm debuted. Didn't seem weird. I barely watch you. I just listen usually because, you know, I'm in the shower. Yeah, well, you know, is this the name you'll give the guy in the database? Did he have a name in the movie? I don't believe he did have a name in the movie. So that would probably be the database name. Yeah, Bert and Ernie. But with that, you know, we finished Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which means it's time to choose the next book. But instead of, you know, doing an audience choice like I did last time, because that ended us up with, you know, almost 300 people voting for this book, and there's 10 people in the thing right now here with us, and I'm grateful that you all are here. But leaving it up to, you know, Twitter for people, you know, that aren't going to show up to choose just doesn't seem right. Lots of people listen to me in the shower. How does that make me feel? You know, if you gotta keep clean, and if I'm helping you do that, then that's a-okay. I need to take a shower now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, so next book, instead of doing a Twitter poll, James and I have already talked about what's going to be up next, and so sorry to cut you guys out, but we're doing the new Mad Love novelization by Paul Dini, and I believe, what was the other author's name? Was it Pat Cadigan? Is that right? Yeah, Pat Cadigan. We're not entirely sure if this works to the DCAU or not. It came out in a three book series, where like they did Mad Love, and then I think they did Court of Owls, and maybe it was Killing Joke, I think might have been the other one. So, you know, like, obviously it's just it's just adaptations of, you know, well-known comic series, but this book is, you know, it's about that thick, right? So obviously it brings a lot more to the table than the Mad Love comic did. If I remember correctly, I want to say I saw Paul Dini tweeted that Baby Doll is in the book. I tried to start reading the book a while ago when I first bought it, and I got through the first couple chapters before putting it down. There is a lot of backstory on Harley's family. There was like the first couple chapters is her as a child, and her dad's wrapped up in some gang shit. So, you know, it's not gonna be anything like Mask of the Phantasm was, where it's just like, oh, we're reading something that we already know what's gonna happen. You know, we'll know parts that will happen, but from what I understand, more or less, this book is a lot more than just the Mad Love comic or the Mad Love cartoon. So I'm really excited for that. That's an amazing cover. Hell yeah, it is. Danny says hell yeah. All right, yeah. So that's what we're doing next. We're gonna start that up next week, specifically because James has an idea for a history of Harley Quinn video that he wants to do. He was talking about like doing a whole her backstory thing, because like there's stuff that comes up. Excuse me. There's stuff that comes up in like Gotham Adventures that flashes back to, you know, her time in Arkham. There's stuff that comes up in Harley Loves Joker that flashes back to like her time in college. So we want to kind of lay that all out there, and be like, this is, you know, this is her entire backstory. It's not just the one thing. Are there going to be more canceled DCAU episode videos? Yeah, so I do have work to do on the next Lost Batman the Animated Series episodes video. And that will be the last one of, you know, the Batman the Animated Series ones. But I've got a lot of other things on my plate right now that I'm wanting to do. I just felt like doing, you know, me only showing up to do those for a while. It was getting kind of tedious on my end. So I'm working on a Halloween video that it was just going to be our Halloween video for, you know, for the month, but we're talking to Matt Draper, another comic book YouTuber who's trying to do what is the thing? A multi-channel collab thing, where it's like everybody is doing a Halloween video with like a kind of similar theme, but like, you know, focusing on different stuff. So that's gonna be repurposed for that. And then I have like, once Batman the Adventures Continues is over, we have an idea for a Batman Adventures Volume 2. Like what could have been had the series kept going, right? Just to capitalize off, you know, people have been loving the Red Hood content, so that's coming. I have one that I want to do on policing in the DCAU, and then of course I've also been working on the Harley Quinn animated series timeline. I was hoping to have that ready to go like when they announced Harley Quinn season 3, but they went ahead and did that. They you know, it was very rude of them. They didn't call me up and make sure I was ready. So now I've got to do that. I just don't know when we'll put that out, but you know, it is what it is. As well as I've got other stuff. I've got other stuff that's like in random stages of production. We had an unboxing video for Batman the Animated Series trading cards that James still needs to edit, as well as like some DCEU commentary stuff that I think we're saving for when the Snyder Cut comes out. But yeah, so there's tons of stuff coming. the lost episodes is absolutely going to be among them. I just need a little space and time for creative control, right? Because like that's part of why Vanishing Point ended, is because like I felt creatively pigeonholed. So that's what that is. Sid the Squid timeline video win. Yesterday you missed it, but yeah, with that. I have a couple errands that I need to run, and I need to go get my action figure from downstairs. So I'm going to go ahead and peace out. Before I sneeze on camera in front of all of you. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Y'all have a lovely rest of your day. I don't know if James mentioned it in his stream earlier this week or not, but we're talking about moving these later in the day to hopefully boost the audience. I don't know, what works best for y'all, but if you have any ideas, feel free to leave them, in Twitter, Discord, all that kind of stuff for us. But with that, I am out of here. I love y'all.